I think the Union has lost this game, but I'm not one to sit on my laurels, unless they're particularly cute. The Confederates aren't going to just stop and take what looks like an assured victory by trying to hold the defensive lines. First of all, they obviously have to throw some defenses here, but they're also launching an attack here at the Grapevine Bridge, which could put additional pressure on the Union. As I see it, that makes sense at this point still. The attack did not go well for the Union, or for the Confederates. You can see they got pushed back, ineffective now, which means there won't be further pushes in that direction probably. It also opens up some possibility to maybe trap this unit and attack it, but my main goal has to be to come around so that I can free up the wagon. I don't know if I have time. A couple more units coming in over here, which will further solidify any defense against Confederate advances from this direction. And these units were unable to displace the units across the bridge because they had a free place to retreat, which means the Union got a 2-to-1 attack. They ended up forcing a defender retreat. There's nowhere the defender can retreat to. Everything's in zones. So away they go into the dead pile. And that's a pretty major issue. That was the risk of that attack. Now I've got more units I can push up this way if I can get attacks from both directions, but this is a powerful stack here defending that location. Confederates, however, get 2 more victory points, and that drops this down to a 3 as we move on here on the 3rd day. Fortunately for the Union, the other shoe drops with an attack coming in across here. Now this is putting pressure on their forces here. And it really kind of shows what an interesting situation this battle develops into. I think we got 3-to-1 going in here. I might as well roll it. A 2, that's a defender retreat. I'm going to have to be pushed back. And we'll see the Confederates advancing there because they want to try to let these guys in behind the other side of the creek. The Union is diverting some of the forces from the from the east. Put the Rosette going this way and I get all confused. I should tilt the map for the north-south. Anyway, diverting some forces back up to handle, because I'm clearly outnumbered here, but I've also managed a quick 2-to-1 against this hex to try to push against it and force them to maybe go through where I've got some defensive terrain, and I'll be able to shift there and block them there. I'm also sending more forces up around here in the northwest because I just don't have enough to get around here. I look at this, I might want to go 3, 4, but the problem is if I lose that stream line, if they want to attack me, that's fine. I can always move up into place, but if I lose that streamline control there, it makes it harder to advance, I guess, if I have to attack the Confederates here. There's really not much reason for not moving there. But anyway, over here, like I said, I got a 2-to-1 attack. I got some artillery that I could throw in, but I don't need them. And I get a 1, which is a defender retreat, which is going to force all kinds of units to fall back. Oh, these aren't. And I might as well advance with these to further force attacks. And now the Confederates are in a little bit of a bind there because they got this unit attacking this one, but they can't really bring more force in easily. The only problem is this guy can kind of slip around. 3, 4 is no good, but 4, 5, and now he's positioned to strike this way, and I gotta maybe cover that. I don't know. Things got kind of ugly for the Confederates. Not a lot I can do, just repositioning some of the stuff behind these lines. I've pretty much given up on trying to break through this way. From here, these guys were stuck here. They made a 1-to-2 attack. They're destroyed. So there's some serious points for the Union. Meanwhile, I'm trying to curve around this way. But again, the Union can shift its way down. It's also allowed to enter here and pick on these 4 artillery pieces that got left behind by that assault. Slide. The train hasn't entered, And I'm not 3 turns past here. It's basically 3 turns past the train or 3 turns past turn 14. So I can't quite go in there yet. Now the Union's on the counteroffensive, and I should have just been careful with my Confederates, I guess, but I'm not good at that. First of all, a big 4-1 coming in there. And then over here, I'm launching an attack. I've got only... Oh boy, the rough is going to double him. That's only a 1-1. I don't really want to make that, but I've moved into place. I thought I had 2-1. The one nice thing about it is if I succeed, I've taken the good ground back. It's my own fault for giving it up. Alright, well, let's go ahead with it. It's just a 1-1 attack. This could be bad. And it is. We get a 4, which means we're going to be retreating. And then over here, a 4-1. Hopefully that's not bad terrain. We get a 3. That's a defender retreat, which allows me to push forward if I want to. That's going to force them into a 1-1, and I'm beginning to bring enough power in to attack. However, still haven't done this, and when we get to the end of the turn, I think that was at 1 that die. I just bumped it. 2 more points. I'm going to have to get a gray die and start scoring Confederate victory points there. We're up to 1 Confederate point for the turn. The Confederates are on their way back. They pulled their forces back from here in order to defend their artillery, not lose any quick points off that. And over here, they were forced to attack, and well, you can see they were retreated. It's a 50-50 chance thing, but they're getting overwhelmed by the numbers that the Union's able to push around there. There's not going to be enough time, though, for the Union to bring to let its supply train get through safely. And, well, the Union's not able to push the attack because the Confederates in this rough. Remember the doubled strength, but I can crush over here. Getting 5-1 odds on these guys, that's pretty good. Picking on the artillery and kind of protecting the lines there. This little weak thing is fine because I got these 2 hexes protected by these units, as long as nothing goes badly, right? 5-1 could cause an exchange, and that could get rid of this unit and then open this thing up to destruction. Always a problem in this game is that there's still a good chance of losing your big unit when you attack. 5-1 feels pretty impressive, but really with those exchanges in there, it's scary. And then up here, the Union's attacking, what, 16 and 18? That looks like a 2-1 against this. Let's see how that goes. That could knock back that whole Union attack. It does not, however. The Confederates are pushed back instead. And that means I can push the Union forward. Now, which units to put forward? I'm going to protect the flanks, yet push 2 units forward to make it really rough on the Confederates. They're going to have to pull these out anyway. But it makes it tougher on the rest of the units maybe concentrating for an attack. That's it, except for that big old 5-1. Let's see, 5 or 6. Dangerous, dangerous table. Strangely dangerous. The 3-1 may be a safer table, actually. Oops. Yeah, that's pretty harsh. And that means the Confederates are going to get to go there. They get a quick 2 points. And we move forward. You know, I think I made a couple errors. For one thing, movement, the first turn reinforcements for the Confederates are allowed to move double their movement allowance. So they could have gotten a jump on that swing across. They certainly didn't need it. But that makes the Union job a little harder. I think I screwed up with them, but I think covering against where the Confederates could sweep is rougher. Then the other, as long as they don't enter an enemy zone of control. And however, on the other hand, they kind of follow one after the other, which I also hadn't realized. I just didn't bother reading all the rules. This is pretty useful, pretty usual for me. I can see it here. And then the other thing is, I don't think you can enter if a hex is physically occupied by the enemy. So the Confederates can garrison this hex and prevent the wagon train from coming in. That's 20 victory points that they get. I think I got mistaken and couldn't find where that penalty was, but that's right here, as opposed to, geez, some other penalty if they kill it or something. I don't know. Victory points, you know, they're one of the harder things in this game. There aren't a lot of rules, and I kind of skimmed through it and didn't look too carefully at either the basic rules nor the exclusive, because it seems like there's almost nothing here. But there are a couple of little things hidden in them. But the victory points, even knowing where they are and what they are, they're kind of a pain in the ass to remember. Anyway, I think you still get a pretty good feel for the game, even though my screw-ups are going on. I'll start moving the Confederates, and they will definitely block that. They got some more reinforcements here, and those will come in order as opposed to how I've been doing it. Confederate troops coming in from the east. They're putting a threat on these guys. Oh, they're gonna move this. And then also, I'm launching an attack up here on the 6-to-1 table, which is a defender eliminated, so I can kill this. I can push forward. I don't see any reason not to force them to make an attack there. And the Union starts pulling some forces. Let's get some more down here. Get some protection there. These can't cross here without getting stuck. I don't know. There's a terrible reason. I might as well move them there. Over here, we got a big attack going. Looks like 2-to-1, which isn't terribly good. We get a 6, which is bad, and we're flung back. Which will allow the Confederates not a lot. You know, they just don't have the room to get through. Once you start building these lines, it's really tough to get a grip on them. The stacks tend to be fairly powerful, and these Union forces are fairly strong. So there's no real easy way in. You go in here, well, then you got to commit to this. So you might get some 1-to-1 attacks, but that's about it. Artillery back here, the artillery is too light. It's just 1-pointers to really swing the difference too much. The Union's trying to curve around here. We got the Confederates slipping behind us, and you know, I've got more troops heading down to try to handle that, but that's it. And that's 2 more points for the Confederates. And on to another turn. And it really doesn't look like much is going to change on the battlefield at this point. The Union might be able to get a couple of points off there, but I don't think they get any victory points for that. It's the constant look up what the victory points are. The Union gets points for each strength point from 0117. That's that one. Any units coming off here will actually generate victory points. It doesn't matter about the train. The train only matters if I'm going that way. Just all these conditionals on there that make it a pain in the ass. I don't even know what these points are. It's obvious the Confederates have lost less units, but they've got some pretty hefty ones in there, and I don't feel like adding until it's time to end the game. Confederates don't see any reason to do much of anything. They're positioning a couple of units here. They've got strength. They're moving down into that eastern area, mainly with some thought towards hitting one of these units, but there's really not a lot they can do. They're going to have one more action to take. They can make an attack during it, and that's about it. We'll see what the Union does to score some points. They could run off the board. They can do that on the last turn of the game and score some pretty much automatic points that way, I guess. Let me look again. Yep. And the Confederates don't get a follow-up to come off the map. Now, their follow-up doesn't count for anything unless they can trace a line of communication. Line of communication can only be through road hexes, so they'd pretty much have to break through here. This hex they could get through, but there's a Union unit there. Maybe right now they actually can because zones don't matter. But if they withdrew some units, the Union could cut that off. Does that matter? I get 1 point for each strength point. And I don't need the line of communication. So yes, the Confederates could just run off the map here and give me some more victory points. That may have been the better move, rather than kind of try to force an attack here. The attack is less likely, but I didn't do it, so the hell with it. I mean, I've made so many little mistakes, and a lot of times when you're playing one of these games opposed, you miss a lot of choices too. So the Union's kind of pulled back here. Everywhere else, they're really useless. They're throwing their units back, but they're not going to make it out in time. These guys are standing up there just because they aren't going to make it anywhere on time, and they can't really get a positioning to make an attack. Over here, though, I do have an attack. I have, 16, 21. I've got 23 strength points because I can fire the guns there, but it doesn't make a difference. It's going to be 4 to 1. Let's see what we get. 4, we get a defender retreat, and he's pushed there. Do I want to force them to attack? Yeah, why not? Not really sure I do want to. In some ways, this is a stronger position because I can get off the board. Because if the Confederates force me to attack, I actually have to, so I'll leave it there. And 2 more victory points for the Confederates. On to another turn. Not a whole hell of a lot the Confederates can do. They couldn't get anybody off map, but they can launch an attack on this unit down here. And elsewhere they've pushed forward for no real good reason. One thing they do manage, though, is to grab this, which means, well, they could have left a guy back here instead. What I was going to say is it means there won't be any trace to this hex by a road map, by road hexes, if that's of any importance, which I don't think it is because I didn't get off the map with the train. So I've got 20 strength points against 10. That's just a 2 to 1. That's not going to do much. I'm hoping to kind of freeze some units into attacking me, so I get a defender retreat, which pushes this forward. And I can shove a couple units forward, forcing the Union to make an attack here. And now the Union gets its last turn. We'll be able to get a couple of units off the map, but that's about it. There might be some opportunity for an attack. The pullback back here, actually, if anything, made them more defensible. This is still a rough terrain, so I can't swing around and get a good shot on that. Pretty much in good terrain everywhere here. These guys are all ineffective, so it's just whether these can swing down and maybe do. Union units went off the map. I gotta remember them. Their victory points up there, but elsewhere, well, I'm forced to attack here at 10 to 15. That's 1 to 2, and then this other attack here, which I think is at least 2 to 1, but I'm not sure. Let's look at the 1 to 2. That's probably not pleasant. I couldn't get anything there. That's an attacker eliminated. Not good at all for me. And here I've got 17, 25, 27. 2 11 is just 2 to 1. 2 to 1 has no possibility of an attack retreat. It has a defender retreat, though, and there's nowhere for him to go, so he's dead. And that's why it was a worthwhile move. And we'll push forward a little bit. Not that that matters at all. It's time to score it. I guess I can just grab a sheet of paper and start counting. Well, let me come back. I'll finish. I'll do the counting offline. But yeah. Isn't to double check casualties? I'll just do them from memory, right? Yeah, I kind of did. I don't know if there's more here. I think I got them all. So, what we've got here is Union casualties added up to 110. Confederate got 9 turn victory points. I only have 7 marked over there, but there's 2 more for the last turn. And 20 points for the train, which adds up to 139. The Union caused 88 Confederate casualties. Like I said, I couldn't tell for sure just looking because the Union points looked like smaller units overall, and that seems like it. But they exited 13 points, so they got 102 total. Not a lot I can say there. The Union got themselves stuck up here. I mentioned that before. A couple of other, little places. Well, that initial boost in movement that the Confederates can use on the first turn to jump ahead, I didn't take that into account. But that's okay. They were able. There's a Union unit sitting over here, which kind of prevents that from being terribly effective. I could push a little closer than I did here, but it's not going to make much difference to the game overall. The biggest difference was the Union just wasn't able to pull back quickly enough. If they are able to, it becomes a closer fight. But they thought they had the Confederates, pretty much sealed up. I had a couple of units up here. I had units that I was keeping back here. It's just the Confederates were able, to put more pressure. Well, to get there firstest, really. That's what it comes down to. The Union got itself caught in this bad terrain, fighting in it instead of doing the withdrawal that they should be doing. They tried to hold the river line too long. They could have thrown everybody and run back as hard as they wanted to. Instead, they tried to slowly cover the defensive line, and that just didn't work for them. I find this an interesting scenario, actually. More interesting than the Napoleon's Art of War scenarios, even though in some ways this is actually even a simpler game than the Dresden and Eylau scenarios. Napoleon at Waterloo is pretty damn simple. You don't have that anymore, but this one's closer to that. But I never felt like I had much room for maneuver in Napoleon at Waterloo. On the other hand, I never liked this one very much, so my tastes may be changing. Anyway, that's all stuff I should be saying in the review, not in the wrap. Let me clean this up, and I'll chatter a little bit later.